Okay, trying to get started here. I'm just checking to make sure everything is working properly. And I believe it is. Oh, hi, Deb. How are you? Okay. Got to get, oh, hey, Patty. Got to get myself all adjusted here. I'm just going to wait a minute and have some people get on. Hopefully I didn't scare anybody off last week. Okay. I am doing a little bit different stuff today than I kind of originally planned on, but I think you'll find it interesting. I had a couple of days with my dad, the last 2 days that I was quite busy with him. He kept me busy. He's almost 95. He'll be 95 next month, actually. And anyway, I didn't have quite the time that I wanted to get everything set up, but I think I've got it pretty well covered. Okay, so I want to welcome everyone and say hello. And if you haven't seen me before, I hope you will enjoy the broadcast today and learn something. If you haven't seen me before, I've got 3 other videos listed on this page. And for some reason, I cannot figure out how to get my first video, which was on doing the Byzantine chainmail, listed on the video side of the menu on the group page. The other 2 videos are there, but I can't find any way to group that one in there, because I think they should be all together, just easily to find everything in there. But anyway, if anybody has any ideas on that and they want to share that with me, I would be most appreciative, because technology is not my friend. I don't do too badly, but there's just so much more that I need to know. So anyway, this was the project that I posted for us today. It's certainly not something that you have to do. You don't have to make a floral bouquet. It is basically just learning how to make the little components, and then I color them. Some of them aren't colored. Well, I take that back. These are all colored, but you could mix just the traditional copper and silver colors in your bouquet and not have to colorize them. But it's kind of fun. I think this is kind of cute just to put in a little vase and set it on my table. It just kind of makes me happy. But you could actually even make this like into a brooch if you wanted, a pin, whatever. But I think there would be some value in learning how to make these little components to add to other creations that you make. You could certainly weave in, some leaves or some flowers or some little tendrils. These little tendrils are super cute, and they're very easy to make. And that's kind of the stuff. I was going to do a couple simple spirals, if you can see those okay, different sizes of those, and then making the flowers and showing you how to texture them and do different kind of fun things. And I've got lots of tools to show you and enable you to add to your toolbox already. But that's one of the best things that I do is enabling people. So I have a lot of fun with this stuff, and I've been accumulating tools over many years. So this is not something that I just rushed out and bought a ton of, but it's just they're fun to have for the right time. So let's see, we're getting hey Linda, hey Gwen, Diane, Cindy, hey, long time no hear. Anyway, I have so many things to show you. I'm almost like not really sure where to get started. A lot of ground to cover in this class or demo. But let's see. the first thing I guess I should tell you is, let me lower the camera a little bit, and let me know if you can't see these things. I will check occasionally and see if I have any issues that I need to fix. But what I have here on the table is just kind of a mix of different things that you can use. Different kinds of discs. I have a lot of the Potter USA pancake dies, so I cut a lot of different shapes from those. And also I have a round disc cutter, so I can make a lot of different designs from that. So I went ahead and I cupped a few of these just to show you. This is, for example, this is a little copper flower that has a little ring on it, but I cut it off. You don't need to have that on there. I mean, this is like 24 gauge metal, so it's easy to snip that off and sand it down. I would recommend basically using 24 gauge for this kind of stuff, but only because I'm using certain pliers that it's easier to use a thinner gauge metal with that. So, but you don't have to limit yourself to that. It's just basically for what you want to use it for. So I have some roller printed metal, some discs that I had made a sheet of the designs and cut them out, punched them out, and then some just little, I don't know if that's a star flower or exactly what that is, but little flower. Then there are also little discs that come pre-made like this, and I'm having a heck of a time trying to find these again to buy some. Eurotool is where I got them from initially, and they're not carrying these anymore. So if anybody has a resource for these, they're 24 gauge flowers. I think they come in 16 millimeter, 18 millimeter, 20 millimeter, like that. And they're really, really handy for lots of different applications. And I like to enamel with these as well. They're just very versatile. So I hope we can relocate some of these again. So you kind of just, some of these flowers are maybe a little bit too large for this bouquet, but like I said, you might want to add these to something else that you've made, and I think it could be quite pretty. You don't necessarily have to color them, but that would be nice. So, okay, I don't know if you have made these little tendrils. I mean, this might be really basic for some of you out there, and then it might be just really mind-blowing for others. So I hope you bear with me, and like I said earlier, I hope you can get something out of this demo. So I guess what I will start with is doing one of the flowers like this. And basically what I would do is, if I have a roller printed or an etched piece, this is a really good application for that, for etching as well. If you etch a lot of these things ahead of time, then you have them in your little arsenal to pull out and use for lots of different things. But if you don't, oh, I'm going to get caught here. If you don't have stamped metal or rolled metal, you can take some design stamps or a texture tool of some sort. I think I'm going to do that with this. I'm just going to add a little texture with this hammer right here. It's kind of a cool hammer. I like the look of this a lot. But what I'm going to do, this is just a little tip here, is craft stick to keep your fingers from getting smashed. And just add some texture. Can you see that? I hope. And I'm adding the texture, number one, because I like the texture. I think I like the way it looks. And number two, if you are going to patina, the texture really is great. It's a great place for that patina to to get into those little areas. So anyway, you kind of just, there's just random hitting it, getting good lines in it. Okay. And once that's done, then I will take my metal forming block and I am going to put the design side up because I want that design within that flower. So I'm going to take that and a corresponding dapping punch. Grab my hammer here. And the thing with these forming blocks, if you're not familiar, is that you should use the right size punch that corresponds with the well. And then you move down accordingly. And you can get a nice cupped shape with that. And go down one more. Centered a little bit better. Okay, so that's pretty good, just like that. I don't know if you can see that. Okay, it's a nice cup. All right, so you can do that. Now, to further thicken the pot here, I'm going to show you some other things here at this point because you have some choices. I have some cool little tools. You're going to need a wire straightener. Well, you can get by without one, but I like to have one. These are the small baling pliers, like this. This is to make our tendrils, our little twisty tendrils. A really nifty pair of Dimple Pliers. Dimple, like dimples in your cheek. This is the smallest one. I believe there are 3 or 4 styles of these. This is the smallest dimple, but it's really pretty neat. And there's notching pliers, or notching cutters, I should say. And these are pretty sweet, really. These they're pricey, but if you're going to do a lot of this kind of stuff, they're kind of neat to have as well. But let me show you the Dimple Pliers first with this cupped bead that I just misplaced. Where did I put it? Oh well, I have one right here. The cupped bead, and I'm going to use the Dimple Pliers, and it's pretty cool because it makes raised bumps. And I'm placing this, it's got, I don't know if you can tell, it's got like a little hole in it, and you can decide which way you want the bump, but I want the bump to be inside the flower. So I'm going to position this, the well part of it, inside the flower, and then just give it a press and give it another press. Just kind of go around it. And there, can you see that? So it's got little knobs kind of on the inside. And I think that's just like a nice design choice. You could use this for lots of different applications, but for the little flowers, I think that that's kind of cute, just like that. So you would do this kind of work after you've domed it. Because if you put this in there with the dimples, they're just going to get pounded out. So the next one I'll demonstrate is the notching plier. And boy, it would be nice if I could keep track of the things that I'm doing. Oh, I put it on top of the dapping block. Okay, so there's that. And there's a notching plier. The notching plier actually does this little design, if you can see that. And I have a larger one that might be a little bit better to tell. You see that okay? So that's kind of fun too, as a floral design. So even if you can't find those flower discs that I was liking so much, you can come up with some things on your own. And the notching pliers, they're a little bit heavy, but they're kind of cool. What I normally do with that is I will take my disc, or just a plain disc, and having this this grid work surface is kind of nice to work with. And I'll line it up my disc on here and make a little notch, little mark where I want to notch. You can just do it random too. Most of the time I don't have patience for this, so I'll just start notching it out on my own. And then whatever I get, I get. But if you like to do things a little bit more precise, this is kind of a nice thing. Okay, now let me tell you, with the notching pliers, these things are big, they're heavy duty, and they get on the real estate over here. So don't pinch your boobs if you use these, okay guys? Ask me how I know. So, you know, been there, done that. Anyway, you just line up your the notching pliers on that line. You can make it as long as you want, but just grabbing a little bit is okay. This is also good if you're making pendants, and on your back plate of your pendants, I think most people saw their little notches out, but if you have the notching pliers, this makes real short work of it. So I'm just going around here. Being careful not to clip myself at either end, because that does not feel good. And I will give you resources to find all these things if you're interested. I have written up the instructions, the material list, and brief instructions of what I'm doing here today that I will post in the files in the group page. Okay, so that's what the notching plier just did. Okay, now you will get some rough edges on here, but you can just file that. It's not a big deal. But just know that you are going to have some burrs on the side. Notching pliers. These particular ones are made by Wiss, W-I-S-S. But I know that there's other ones out there. So that's just another design option. And then I will dap this one as well. Well, I should file that because that's just a little bit too rough. And I don't have my bench pin mounted here. This is not my working area. This is just for the demos. So I don't have everything fully at my fingertips. But like I said, I tried to get as much out here as possible just for the demos, and so I don't have to keep getting up and moving around. I don't have a cameraman to follow me around, unfortunately. And I just have rinky-dink equipment, but so far I guess it's working out okay. All right, well, that's good enough for right now. Now, at this point, before I dome it, if I wanted to add some texture, I would do that. And you can just get some design stamps. You're not going to really see the design so much within the flower in this application, but if you wanted to patina them, like I said, this will hold the patina in all the little grooves. Okay, so I've got that stamped like that. And now I'm going to put it in the dapping block. There again, design side up. Get that started and start working it down in size. You don't need to see me, you need to see what I'm doing. Okay. Okay, so now I've got that all domed how I want it. Okay, now let me take a look and see if you have any questions or comments before I go any further. All right. Patty, you will lose a tiny bit of your texture. I mean, it just is going to get a little bit flatter, but it still works. It still works. Okay, the urban beater has flowers. Oh, good. Okay, very good. Thanks, Patty. Deb, I'm only organized because I don't want to have to keep getting up and down, you know, otherwise this demo would be a real mess. So, hey, Chrissy, hi, Jan, Linda, everybody. Oh, good, good. Mo, everybody. All right. Okay, so at this point now, you've got a rounded bottom, okay? And I want to attach a flat wire to the bottom. So it can be done, but it's a little dicey. So it's better to sand the bottom flat just a little bit. And so how I do that is I have a piece of sandpaper. This is 220 grit. I don't know, you know, the grits, if it really makes a whole lot of difference in this application or not, but this works okay, the 220 grit. And I have a little acrylic block that I use for rubber stamping, and I have a piece of that tack and peel material that I was using for my rubber stamps in the etching video. I know this backwards. This is tack and peel. It is kind of a sticky, well, it's very sticky, kind of a spongy material. It comes with a backing on the top and the bottom, and when I cut a piece off, I keep that clear protective liner. I keep that, I cut it the same size, and when I'm not using the block, because it sticks to everything, when I'm not using the block, I put the little paper, the little plastic shield over it just to keep it nice, because everything will stick to this. You'll get dust and steel wool crumbs and all kinds of little things on there, and then your stuff's not going to stick on there. So I just kind of keep that handy off to the side. And then I'm going to put my flower with the petal sides down into the sticky. You can get this at Joann Fabrics or Michael's. I will also have that on the reference or resource list. Okay, so I've got that stuck on there. I get my 220 grit paper, and I'm just going to sand myself a little flat spot. Put my eyes back on here. That's good enough. Okay, and I have already cut some 18 gauge copper wire, and the end that I'm going to solder to the flower cap, I have filed it flat, because when you're cutting them, you know, there's always like a little point on there, and you want your solder to be successful, so flat to flat is best. So I don't know that I need to demo this. Does anybody need to see this? Because I will show you how to do it if you don't know. Well, it's really no big deal. I'll show you. This is a little miter jig. I guess there's a couple different versions. There's a super expensive one, and then there's this one, which is, I don't know, $65 in that range. I've had this for a long time, so I'm not really sure what they would be today. There's this little stop over here, little square stop, and I line up my wire to lay against that stop. And it's hard to hold it and show you, but I lay it against that stop and let this little wire poke through here just a little bit, and then I close it, screw it, both screws, so this little nub is sticking out right here. And then I take my flat file. I don't know my files real well, but this is a number 4, and it seems to work just fine for this. Is it a 4? No, this is a 2. Sorry, it's a 2. Okay, and you just take your file and just file across, and that gets till you can't feel any resistance anymore. It's nice and smooth now. There's nothing sticking out of there, and it's flush with the miter jig. And then I just unscrew it, open it up a little, and my wire comes out. These are really handy for when you make rings, anything that you've got to have wires meet flush. It's a great tool. All right, so there's that. So now my end is very flush. So for this kind of thing, I use paste solder, and I know that it's frowned upon a lot by a lot of people. I know it's not healthy. I get that, and I don't use it any more than I absolutely have to. And when I do, I make sure that I have good ventilation. I have a fume trap over here that I'm going to run while I'm doing this, and it might be noisy that you're not going to hear well, but it will only be for a minute or so. So I'm going to get my solder stuff out here and get my setup. And I use, this is a product that Eurotool carries, and I'm using 65, which is easy, and I put a little bit of solder paste in my dish here, and it doesn't dry up. At least in the time that I use it, it doesn't seem to dry up, so I just leave it there. I put a little bit out and I leave it. Seems to work fine for me. And another one of the tools on my tray that I had out to show you is cross-lock tweezers, but these have a little groove at the end. I don't know if you can see that. There's a little notch or a groove, whatever you want to call it, and they're perfect for holding a wire. Okay, and you want your wire as straight as possible, and that's where the nylon pliers kind of come in, the straightening pliers. because that will help you make sure that that wire is straight. Where is the wire that I had? Okay, well, I have another one. Okay, so you just kind of use those to straighten your wire out. The better you have your stuff prepared, the more chances your project is going to work out well. So these are just straight nylon jaw pliers. You can do it without, but if you have them, it's nice. Okay, so I'm going to get set up here. I've got my flux paste. And even though I am using paste flux, I am still going to spray some flux on here. I've just had better success with it, so I just wanted to share that with you. All right, so here's the little flower that I notched, and I'm going to put a little dab of paste solder. If I said solder or paste flux, I hope I didn't, but this is paste solder. You really don't need a lot, but you want to have enough. And it's hard to get that stuff to just go right where you want it, of course. It goes everywhere else. All right, so I've got a pair of these grooved pliers. Now I'm going to give this a little spritz of flux. I'm going to flux the end of my wire as well. And get set up here. So I've got the wire inside that little groove. Okay. Necessity was the mother of invention, for sure. Okay, so now I'm going to make sure that this is lined up. Stay. Okay. Can you see it okay, guys? Okay. So, I'm going to turn on my okay, flame. There we go. All right, so I'm going to warm the flour up. I don't want to focus the heat on the wire because you will melt the wire in no time flat. So I'm going to keep the heat circulating around the base of the flour. And there it went. And I just want to go up that wire just a little bit. Okay. So it was that quick. Now, it's hot. Where's my quench cup? All right, quench cup is over here. So I take the whole thing because these tweezers get really hot too. So I just dip that in there. And that's soldered. Okay, but now I have big silver blob on the back here. Okay, so what I would do after I get to this point is I will go stick this whole thing in the pickle. When it comes out of the pickle, then I have well, the next thing I would do, let me turn this off. So you put it in the pickle, you want to get that all clean, all right, and then you have to deal with the solder blob that's on there. Now, unfortunately, I have a little micromotor that I bought at the Tucson Bead Show this past February, and I bought it with the intention of taking it when I teach my classes, and now there's no classes. So anyway, I got it out the other day because I thought I really should look at it. And I knew that when I bought it, it came with the 1/8 inch mandrel. And I didn't think too much of it when I bought it. you know, that's the way it came. So when I realized when I wanted to try it, I thought, well, hell, all my mandrels are 3/32, or all my bits, you know. So I called Craig at Micro Tools. That's who I bought it from, and he said, "Oh, no problem. You know, we'll send out the one that you need." So I got it, put it in the box, hadn't gotten around to using it. And last week I decided, you know, for this class I'm going to need it, and my flex shaft is too far away. So micromotor. So I got it out, and I had the collet to change, and I followed the instructions, and guess what? I broke it. It's got these little ball bearings in there, and it says don't touch this and don't touch that. I didn't touch those things, but when I took apart the part that you're supposed to, that other part just came off, and one of the ball bearings rolled on the floor, and God only knows, my husband and I were down here looking for the longest time, never found it. So I called Fordham the other day, and he said, no problem. We know, you know, that we're aware of that situation. Send it back. They'll fix it for me. Put the 3/32 collet on. No charge. It's like, how much better can you get? Except I didn't have it for today. So I got the old portable Dremel, which there's nothing wrong with the Dremel, but it's loud. So I do have that to show you on there. So how I address this look like, okay, let's see. It looks like this. And I had bought this years ago for stained glass work, and didn't use it that much. But I got kind of reintroduced to it, you know, when I was doing the paste solder, and I was watching other instructors, and they were saying, oh, you know, you really need to be careful with that. I'm not really sure how this works. There's a filter in there, and I guess the fumes go in there, and the filters are replaceable, but it's kind of a mystery to me, but I'd rather use it. I've got it, and I'm going to use it. And normally when I work, I sit under a high-powered range hood, so I don't really have any issues with exhaust. I mean, that goes out of the house, and but I would suggest, if you don't have that, to keep a fan blowing, you know, work by an open window and keep a fan blowing so that you can circulate that stuff and get it out of your studio, your house, wherever, because it truly is not healthy to breathe all this stuff. And we do a lot of dangerous stuff. You know, we work with a lot of dangerous things. So, you know, you've only got one set of lungs, and why take a chance, you know? So anyway, so I've got the Dremel over here, and you should work with safety glasses, but I'm wearing double set of eyes here, so I'm going to work with that. A face mask for sure. You don't want to breathe any of the little crumbs, particulates, whatever you want to call them. So anyway, what I will do is use, I really like these abrasive wheels, the white. These are the knife edge, they call it, and it's got a grit in there. This is the coarse, and I will use this one to work on that solder. I hope I have this on right. I hope you can hear me while I have this Dremel on, but I'll just do it briefly just to give you an idea of what we're doing. But see if you can see on there that solder blob on there. So I'm going to turn this loud sucker on. Okay. And just kind of get around there, get as much of that silver solder off. Ooh, okay. So that did a pretty good job, but there's a little bit on there. There's always a little bit on there. But anyway, what I'm going to do next is just clean this up because I didn't stick it in the pickle for this. So I'll do this one without sticking it in the pickle. So to clean this up, I'm going to use a ring clamp and stick my flower in the ring clamp. Now the length of the wire won't let me get it straight down, but I can still get it over to the side. It doesn't matter if the wire's sticking out. Put the peg in to hold that. Because the more you manipulate the wire, you're going to break the flower off. So you don't want to do that. So and it also gets hot. So that's another factor. All right, so I have this handy dandy little wire brush that come like this. It's just got like silver wires in there. And I'm gonna put that in there. And that'll just knock out that that fire scale. Okay, here we go. Whoa! Well, I broke it off because I had it too fast. Okay, so maybe oh, stop. What the heck? I'm not used to this thing, sorry. I'm embarrassing myself. All right, I broke that one off. I guess I didn't have a good solder joint on that. Let's do another one. Well, I did this one earlier, but just so that you get the idea. So I'm just cleaning the inside of that cupped flower with this little wire brush. It's just great because it gets in small places. You can use this for other things as well, okay? All right. Oh, and I have the solder mess on this side too, so I need to, because that's a different one. So, put this back on here. These things lose the knife edge fairly quickly, but there's also a way that you can reshape them. I'm not going to show you that today, but there is a way that you can still use them to back into the knife edge shape. All right, so I'm going to clean this silver solder off here. Okay, that's pretty good. All right. So, now there's still a little bit of silver on here. Now for anyone who doesn't know, I'm just using regular silver solder. There is this thing called copper solder, but I think it's pretty worthless. And I'd rather work with the silver and then just plate the silver mark. Even if you buy copper solder, it's still silver. It's very misleading. I don't know why they haven't been able to develop a true copper solder, but it doesn't exist as far as I know. So there is a solution to fix that, and that is by using old pickle that has turned blue, and I've got that over here. I have a jar of old pickle that I've kept, and I put it in a cup warmer, or on a cup warmer. You can keep in my experience, you can keep this old pickle for a long time. The problem, well, it's not a problem, but what happens with the pickle, at least like I said in my experience, is it gets slimy. It gets like little slimy, I don't know, it's just gross. It's just slimy stuff. So you would heat the pickle up, put your piece in, and then take some steel wool. Now I save, this is a new piece, but I save all my old steel wool that is used up, and I just have like a little container of that, and I use that for this purpose. So I just put the steel wool in here, and that will help plate the that silver solder. Maybe a little more in there. And this process seems to get used up fairly quickly. It's like it doesn't last very long. Like I'll plate a few pieces, and then I've got to put or add solution to it and put new steel wool in it. But I'll just leave that over to the side and let that plate for a little while. All right, let me see. Are there any questions? Is there a patina that turns silver solder? Well, yeah, I mean, if you're going to patina over that, you're probably going to cover it, but I don't know. I would just like to get it as clean as I could first. But usually on the backside, they're really, I mean, even if you put liver of sulfur on it though, it's going to, when you clean that liver of sulfur off, you're still going to see that silver if you haven't plated it. So, and when I plate it, I try not to be too aggressive with the steel wool and cleaning it, but I've had pretty good luck with it. Okay. Let's see. You have colored bands on some items. Yes, I have orange bands on all my tools, or the majority of my tools, because that way I know that these are mine. In the past, I've had a lot of mix-ups with tools, and you know, some of it's inevitable. It's going to happen, but I make sure when I leave my classes that nobody has any tools with orange bands on, because I've lost a lot of them like that. I'm sure not intentionally, but it happens. So, and when you're working with other people, I know one of my girlfriends, she's got bands on hers too, and they're a different color. So it's just kind of a nice way. These the bands I got from the Urban Beater at a Bead and Button show several years back, and I need to get some more. But they don't fit on every tool, but initially I was putting orange duct tape on them, and that was a disaster. Because as you're working with your tools, that tape starts to come off, they get sticky, you get yuck all over, and these are a nice way to go. And just as a little side note, we use these in the dental office too to color code all our instruments. So each color was a different setup for a different procedure. So when I saw these for tools, I thought, oh yay, you know, that's something else I'm familiar with. Okay, so I'm plating that piece, and oh, I wanted to tell you too, not just the copper, but you can do those little water castings. Those are very, very cute. I put a couple of them in the flower bouquet. There's, I don't know if you can see those in here. There's a few silvers. I like mixing metals a lot too. But they make cute little cups, and you could add those to lots of your different designs too by, you know, soldering on a little stem, and then you can wire work it into a piece. That would be real cute. So, I mean, basically it's the same thing. You just sand the bottom flat a little bit, and your wire flat, solder it, and then you're good to go. So I guess, oh, and when I make my leaves, I take a 24 gauge piece of sheet and just draw with a Sharpie. I'm not an artist by any means, but that's a simple enough shape that I can do, and cut that out around the lines. And then I will hammer that flat because the metal, I just use shears. I just have hand shears to cut the 24 gauge with, and solder on a piece of wire as the stem, and texture it. Well, I texture it first and then solder it. So that's another possibility to do. But the little tendrils, we could do those now, I suppose, while we're waiting. And for this, I cut about maybe a 6 or 8 inch piece of 18 gauge wire, and you ball it on the end. And just as a kind of a neat thing, if you make your copper balls, if you ball it and stick it immediately in ice cold water, your balls turn red. Imagine that. So I'm bad. I'm really bad, and I'm sorry, but not sorry, because it's just who I am. So anyway, anybody who knows me, you know, they can't do anything with me. So okay, so I've added some ice to my water, and my quench water. I'm getting all messy here. And let me do this. I always keep a pair of cheap utility pliers for holding, torching something, so I don't burn myself. These are from Harbor Freight. They're like $3, I think, and I use them for all my enameling classes and everything. They're pretty indestructible, and for the money, you can't beat it. So if you haven't balled a piece of wire, I'll show you how I do it. I've got my ice cold water, and I bought one of these torches because all the pros seem to have them, and they seem to really like them, so I thought I have to have one. So, and so far I like it. Okay, so what I do is, I wish I had one more hand, is hold my wire. I always put my torch upside down. I hope you can see this. And I put the end of the wire right on the tip of that blue flame. Get it nice and hot. Now it's starting to ball. And dunk. And red ball. Maybe it's not as red as it could be. And it really doesn't matter if they're red or not. It was just a funny thing to say. I'm going to do the other end just to show you again. And here comes the ball. And dunk. There, that's a little redder. Okay. So that higher powered torch is nice for the quickness of this. But you can make cut a longer piece of wire and then just do both ends and then cut it in half. Say if you did 12 inches or so, ball each end. And then I'm going to take my baling pliers and put the ball right at the back of the jaws here and twist it around, and then I have to bypass that ball each time I go around. I don't know if you can see that or not. It's not going to be the neatest job because I'm trying to let you see, and I'm just wrapping that wire around the one tine of the plier. And then I want some for a stem, so I'm going to just go that far. So right now this is what it looks like. And I'm going to take my chain nose pliers and just bend that up a little bit. And then I'm going to grab the top, and I just dropped my other pliers. Okay. I'm going to grab my flat nose pliers and grab the stem down here, and with the chain nose I'm going to grab up here by the, not too far from the ball, and I'm going to just pull it. I'm going to start to pull, and it starts to spread apart, and then I'm going to come down a little bit lower and pull again until I have a little twisted tendril, and then I'm going to raise that little ball up on the top. So they're nice little additions to little bouquets if you like. They're just kind of fun. They're kind of whimsical. There again, you can work these into different designs, like in necklaces and different things. Maybe some kind of a hair ornament too. You could work those in there. That would be kind of fun. And then there's the spiral. And this is just a simple coiled spiral. And I'll do one just in case someone does not know how to do that. I will take a length of wire here. I think this is about 6 inches or so. And round nose pliers. And I'm going to put the wire in at the tip of the pliers right here and roll it away from me. So you have this little loop. It's kind of like a pea. And then I'm going to put the pliers inside that loop and roll it around itself. You know, that's kind of hard to maybe see. I'm just going to roll it around itself, just one turn around till it gets like that. And then I'm going to grab my flat nose pliers and lay it on its side here. And I'm going to move the wire. I'm not going to move the pliers. I'm just going to move the wire around, keeping that flat. I have to reposition the wire as I'm turning, as making the spiral. You can get as close to the other wire as you want. I kind of like to have that little distance between there. So that's basically all there is to making the spiral. And then I just put my pliers in and give it a twist and make it go up like that. So you can make them as tiny as you want or larger if you like. Okay, so that's a spiral. So those are fun. They're a fun little addition in with your flowers as well. Oh, and there's another plier that I want to show you too, that makes this little fluted design. That's kind of a fun one as well. But there's all kinds of little things that you can do to build these little guys. So, all right, this other plier is, gosh, I forgot the name of this thing. It's one side is a round nose plier, and the other side is kind of like a concave plier. There's a name for it, and now I can't think of it. So anyway, that's that. And this also works great with 24 gauge wire. If you're going to use anything thicker, you should probably anneal it first to bend it a little bit better. So there again, I'm going to make my marks where I want to use that plier, but basically I'm pretty random, so I'm just doing it to show you. Okay, so here again, this is sort of like with the dimple pliers. One side is going to have a groove and the other one is going to have the curve, so you kind of want to decide which way you want that to go. And normally I will put the flat nose side on the top and give it a squeeze. And give it a squeeze. And there again, if I was going to ink these, I would have made a design on top of them first and then squeeze again. So about 4 squeezes. You can actually, you can do it in between those too. Give it a little bit more dimension. Well, he looks kind of wonky, but you can tweak it a little bit and straighten it out. So yeah, it works. So that's another thing. All right, let me look at this pickle here. Oh yeah, it plated him real well. I want to stop smelling this. I want to get it away from me because it's gross. And see, it took like all the blue out of the water. So, out of the pickle, I mean. I don't know how that stuff works, folks. I just don't know those kinds of answers, but all I know is it works. And that's okay with me. All right, so I will just clean this up with steel wool a little bit. And where is it? Here it is. And now, after you clean this up, that's when I would put it in the liver of sulfur. If you like your metal shiny, you don't have to do that, but I like to do that. So yeah, you can't even tell there was any silver on there at all. So that's just a good to know tip, you know, and like I said, most of you or many of you might already know that stuff, but for the benefit of those who don't, that's why we're doing that. Okay, questions? Any questions? Melanie, you're as bad as I am. That's funny though. Forming pliers. Yeah, Gina, you're right. That's what they are. They're forming pliers. Okay. I have many brain farts throughout the day, so if you can relate, you know where I'm coming from. Okay. So I think I've covered pretty much the tools that I use, the methods that I do that. I mean, this is a demo, it's not a class, so I'm just kind of touching on a lot of these different things. But for those who haven't seen anything about the alcohol ink, I could go ahead and clean or paint this one if you want. But I have to get those things out. They are here, but just not at the ready. I don't know. I have fun doing a lot of these different things. It's kind of not so structured. It's kind of free form, and I don't know. It's just fun. But I really like using the water castings in doing this. I think that that's got a lot of potential for really cool looking stuff. So I need, and you know what? When I was doing the alcohol inks last time, I said latex paint, and it really is acrylic paint, but latex paint is okay too. I kind of got to thinking about it, and I don't think there's a whole lot of difference. I mean, it might have a little, I think latex has a little acrylic in it. So either one will work for the alcohol inks. So I am going to get one of my micro tip applicators and get some gloves on, because I don't feel like having ink all over my hands for days. I mean, with this stuff, guys, I mean, I'm sure you can come up with different shapes and different tools to use to bend, manipulate. I mean, this is a big flower, one of Potter's flowers, and I used the forming plier with this. I annealed it first, and then just squeezed it, and got a little bit of dimension in there. But I mean, you can put this on a stake and, move it, curl it a little bit. There's lots of stuff that you can do. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit of acrylic paint inside this flower. Where's my thingies? Oh, here they are, right in front of me. So because of the cupped nature of this flower, I can't put that the dabber, that little pouncer in there like I did on the other flat pieces. So I'm just going to use my micro tip applicator to kind of just paint in here. Okay. And you don't need a thick coat. I mean, when you put a thick coat, it's harder to sand it off too. And honestly, I'm not going to be able to get in here and sand these. So they're going to just be free form or free flow, whatever, in there. Okay. So there's that. Where's the cap? Okay. Get a little bit of alcohol in this other cup. Just regular isopropyl alcohol is fine. Or, whatever alcohol, rubbing alcohol, it's called that too. So, all right. And I might very carefully just hit this. These are another neat little find that I got on Amazon. They come in a big block, and there's like 6 to a sheet. They're like a sheet, but they're perforated. And they're a nice little sanding sponge too. But the polar block that I showed you on the alcohol ink video is still my block of choice for that application. All right. And I did get my heat gun out just to dry this a little quicker. Someone had suggested or asked if that could be used, and it certainly can. That's pretty good. Now, another thing with flowers like this is you could turn those petals down a little bit too, maybe every other one, or just one in the flower or whatever. It's just another option. But I think there's a lot of potential for some really pretty pieces using these. The key is getting the solder on here and not using too thin of a wire. I started using 20 gauge first because I thought it would be easier to use in your designs, like to incorporate it in a necklace or whatever. But I found that, you know, I was moving the cap a little bit too much and kind of bending that wire, and before you know it, it snapped off. So I think a little heavier wire is a better choice. Maybe even 16 gauge if you're just going to do a bouquet. That might be a little harder to work with. I don't know. I mean, if you don't try these things, you don't know. I've got a lot of fails, but from a lot of those fails, I've learned a lot of good things that do work. So, okay, so my paint is dry. I'm going to get a couple of colors out here. I have made such a mess on this table, but it's okay. It's okay. The creative process is always messy. These 4 colors are my favorites for the alcohol inks. It's butterscotch, cranberry, meadow, and eggplant. But there's a ton. I mean, there's probably 30 or 40 colors at least available. And I generally start off with the lightest color first, which would be my butterscotch. And I'm just going to break my own rule here. I like to apply the alcohol ink on my micro tip applicator because I have more control. If I just turn this cap over, even if it's just a drop that comes out, that drop spreads right away. And I feel like I have a little bit more control keeping that color where I want it. So I'm going to do the center in the butterscotch. And since I'm using these, I want to dab gently. I don't want to dab and drag. If you're dragging, you're going to pull that white paint right off. And then you're just going to expose the metal. The thing with exposing the metal is it just has a patchy look to it. It doesn't have that opaqueness anymore. That white paint gives it that opaque look that if you just put ink, and I said I was going to do this in the alcohol ink video and I forgot. I was just going to put some alcohol ink on unpainted. So I'm just going to do that here. But see, it just drips out so bad. But it's a whole different look. Let me get my paper towel. That's an essential here. If you have too much ink on there, dab it on your paper towel and it'll just suck it right up. So it's not a bad look on the bare metal. I just prefer the opaque look. And I use my alcohol to just clean my micro tip applicator in between colors. So then I'm going to use, let's see, a little cranberry. And I got too much on there, so I'm going to dab a little of that off. And as long as I have the cranberry out, I'm going to add some of that to my flower in here. I'm dabbing very gently. Put a little cranberry in there. Okay. All right, now I'll clean my brush again. go with the eggplant now. There again, you know, you can see the lines of, I don't know what you want to call it. They're just, this isn't applying real well. But this piece of metal had some oxidation on it too, so it's probably not a fair example. But I have found when you reapply an ink, it seems like it takes off the original layer that you put on. It seems like it just kind of erases that. But I guess there again, it matters, I guess, whatever your look you're going for, if it matters or not. All right, so I'm going to put a little eggplant in this flower. And this, you know, I'm not really giving it much thought of my color scheme or anything. I'm just kind of quickly doing this to just give you an example. And let's see. Well, that doesn't come out evenly, but I'll put a green one on there just for the heck of it. All right, so I'm going to put a little green on this bare metal. And then green on this last petal in here. Had I thought this out, I could have probably made it look a little bit nicer, more colorful. But anyway, you get the idea. It's just got some color in there. Okay. So I want to make sure that I get all the white paint off of the sides, any edges, because you want to keep your work as clean as possible. It just looks better. I mean, if you make jewelry and the back should look pretty, or maybe not as decorative, of course, as the front, but not messy. You know, you shouldn't have any drips or marks or anything on there that will make it look kind of shabby. Okay, so that's that. And this is how it looks on bare metal with no white paint under that. It's just, to me, there's just like no comparison as far as making the color pop. Now, this looks dull. The paint, the alcohol ink dries dull, and we make it pop by spraying it with the acrylic spray, or you could use the vintage glaze that I had mentioned in the alcohol ink demo. The vintage glaze is good. I also, when I was going through all my stuff, similar stuff, I found this bottle of Royal Coat Dimensional Magic, and I don't think Royal Coat makes it anymore. I think it's put out now by Mod Podge, so it probably has a whole different label. But basically, it's kind of like a resin product, only not. I mean, it's close, but it's not. What I did with this is I put a drop of that inside these flowers, and it gives it a little bit more dimension. It seals it. I don't feel really good about spraying my silver with acrylic spray. I don't mind so much on the copper, but on the silver, it just feels wrong to me. So, I mean, that might just be my deal, but I don't have any problem at all just putting a dab of this in there, or a dab of that vintage glaze. You could put that in there. I guess either one of those is fine, or resin. I mean, if you're working with resin and you have a little extra, you could just pop a little drip in there, and just gives it a little dimension, and it seals it. So that's that. So I will give that just a minute to dry, and then I will spray it so that you can witness the transformation from dull to shiny. And I also will look and see if there are any other questions that I can answer. And if I don't get to your questions, I will look at this afterwards and answer them as best I can. I don't know all the things, you know. I've learned a lot in the years, but I still learn stuff every day. And I really love watching the other instructors do their demos and do their little classes and stuff online, because it seems like I inevitably pick up something that I didn't know, and that's great. I mean, there's just lots of cool things. I can't give credit to who came up with it, but somebody posted in one of the groups, maybe in the last couple of weeks, that they take their sandpaper and they, I think, rubber cement it like on an acrylic block, and that way it keeps it stationary, and you can work on it without that thing moving, slipping away from you. So I thought, boy, that's great. I mean, I never would have thought of that. I thought that was a great idea. And using the acrylic block, somebody else mentioned that. I think that was Tanya Davison. She used a different product, a double stick stuff on hers, but she put it on acrylic blocks too, and would hold her small pieces in there to sand them. I think that's brilliant, you know, and if you don't watch those things, you don't learn. What I do a lot, guilty, well, not guilty, but you know, it's a huge time suck when you watch all these things all the time. But you have to justify it by your learning. You're getting an education. But this year has been my year to try to get healthy, you know, and so I do the treadmill every day. And I have my phone set up, and I watch people's videos while I'm doing that. And it makes that horrible time, because I don't like to sweat. I don't like to exercise. I hate it. It's a punishment. I know it's good for me. And I'm dealing with it, but watching the videos is a real help for me. So I save those because there's so many. You just, I don't know. To me, I just can't watch them all the time. I have things I have to do, but that treadmill time, that's perfect. It just keeps me going, and I love it. So okay. So anyway, let me see if there's a question or two. And then I'll spray it and then let you get on your way. You can always watch these videos later, or do your project if you want to do this sort of stuff. You could do it kind of along with the video. I think that's a great way to learn, by actually doing it. And maybe at some point, if I find something that you guys are interested in that you want to do it all together, I can do that. I have a great many different things that I can present, but I need to know if you're interested in them or not. So I don't know for next week, guys, if I should do resin, if I should do metal clay. If you have some suggestions, please post them and I'll look at them, and whatever I get the most requests for, then I'll look at that. I can't believe how fast Wednesdays come around, you know, but like I said, I had a couple of days with my dad, and that kind of just held things up here, but I guess I showed enough that you get the idea of what to do. So what I'm going to use is just an acrylic spray. It's nothing fancy. Just a clear acrylic spray. This one is not made anymore, but I bought like 20 cans of it, so I still have a lot of it. And I would normally do this outside, but I can't do that right now. So I'm just going to spray a tiny bit. I usually have it in a box to keep it contained. But if you take one more look, you can see the dullness of that flower. At least I hope you can see that it's dull. It's colorful but dull, okay? So I'm just gonna hit it with a light spray. And I might have put a little bit too much in there. But now it's nice and shiny. And it just looks so much better to me. So, all right, well, I took enough of you guys' time. My goodness, it's like an hour and a half. Okay, so if you have any further questions, you watch the videos on the treadmill too. That's great. Resin so far. Resin. Looks like resin's gonna probably do it. Now I don't get super involved in it, but I've got some cool little tips and lots of cool little things that I put in the resin. And I generally use pre-made bezel cups for that. But I do have a lot of fun stuff with that, so I'll think on that, and I'll probably go with resin then. But yeah, I mean, keep giving me suggestions, you know, that of things that you'd like to see that I can do. I know I do things or do different things than a lot of the instructors, so it's a good opportunity to pick up some tips. All right, so any ideas, any questions, just contact me on the group page here. Please post your designs, anything that we've been talking about. You know, post your stuff on there. I'd like to see what you're making. Any questions, that kind of stuff. I'd like to see everybody interact with one another if you could do that. Also tell your friends that do this sort of thing or would like to do this sort of thing to join the group. Just in a few weeks, we've got like almost 250 people, which blows my mind. So I hope that you continue to enjoy these things, and I enjoy presenting them to you as well. So you guys take care. I will see you on the group page and on Facebook, and see you later. Bye-bye.